So times of transition, transition times are hard. Um, in some ways, the past 3 months have felt like a continual transition because you sort of try to transition from a stable place, and then there's transition to another stable place, but it doesn't feel like we've hit that stable place right now. So it's almost like living in an airport terminal. I don't know if you guys have ever been in an airport terminal longer than you really want to, or if you've been to like a long layover or your flight got delayed or something like that. It's like the worst, unless you're in Singapore. This is totally a digression, but one time I went to a no, hold on, it wasn't Singapore. Where was it? I forgot where it was. Somewhere in Southeast Asia. But we went to a mission trip and we had a layover. It was like a 20-hour layover, something absurd like that. But this airport was like its own city, and there was like a gym there that they would give you clothes, and there was a shower and everything, like free of charge. And then there was like an amusement park in there. And it was like, this is absurd. This is not an airport. Anyway, most airport terminals, you know that feeling that you have, right? So it's sort of felt like that. And you know, the familiar is gone, right? We're creatures of habit, structure. So I've actually heard from a lot of people that COVID time is hard because there's no structure, right? It's sort of like you wake up, every day is the same. Like you don't know if it's Monday or Saturday. You know what I mean? So yeah. So anyway, so transition times is sort of when things can get shaken up in your life, and that kind of shaken up can be good or bad. So that's why, you know, I call this the potential or the perils, right? That could be good or bad. So as we think about this, like how we should approach this, I wanted to sort of focus on Joseph. So I'm not referring to myself in the third person, okay? Joseph in the Bible, okay, Joseph. So it's interesting. Joseph, he's like a full 13 chapters are devoted to Joseph. A lot of Genesis is about his life, and you know, there's a lot there because I think in a lot of ways his life is actually a foreshadowing of the gospel. But we're not going to go into all of that right now. The thing that I wanted to focus on him for today was he went through a lot of transitions, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from him. Now, here's the danger of studying Joseph, okay? The danger is Joseph is too awesome. He is incredibly, incredibly awesome. In fact, he's only one of two major biblical characters who the Bible doesn't really record bad things about them. Now, obviously, he was a sinner, right? Like, because everybody's a sinner. But in terms of what the Bible records, he's one of two major characters in the Bible. I mean, other than Jesus, okay? But human, like fully human characters. Does anybody know who the other one is?
Enoch?
Yes, Enoch, but he's not a major character. He only appears like very little bit. There are a lot of like somewhat minor characters who nothing bad is written about them, but that's also because nothing that great is written about him. But that's a really good answer because he was sort of taken up to heaven. That's pretty cool.
Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel. Daniel's the other one. He's the other sort of major character that nothing like really bad is written about him. So it's interesting. We studied Daniel this past Sunday, and then now it's Joseph, right? But so that's a danger. He's really awesome, and so I don't know. Basically, everything he does is awesome. So don't get turned off by that, right? Because you know Jacob, like he was a bad dude. You know what I mean? Like he was a cheat. Even Abraham, the father of faith, like he sold out his wife twice, and so there's a certain amount of that that's relatable, and so you sort of have hope. But with Joseph, it could always be like, well, he's just too square. You know, he's too much of a Boy Scout, whatever. But so try not to have that reaction. Just let's try to learn from him. Okay, so okay, so I'm gonna go kind of zoom past the first part of his life real quick. But so he was the youngest out of 12. His father favored him, so that's like already not good because his brother's gonna hate him, right? So that's actually what happens. His brother's like stinking youngest one. He gets like this special coat, multicolored coat. You know, his dad's like, yeah, I'm just gonna give it to Joseph, and everybody's like hating on him again. He's like he's innocent and like pure to the point of being naive. He does what's right. And so when his brothers don't work hard, he tells on them. He's like, "Oh, daddy, they're not working hard," you know. So he's kind of like one of these guys, right? And he had a dream, and in him, all his brothers bowed down to him. And so he's like, "So what should he do with that dream?" He tells all his brothers, "Hey, by the way, I had this dream, guys, where you guys all bowed down to me, right?" So maybe not the best EQ, but you know, very pure and naive. And I don't think he anticipated how they would feel about him, but basically they hated him. And then he had another dream where not only his brothers, but his mom and his dad bowed down to him. What did he do with that dream? He told everybody, "Hey guys, I had this dream. You guys all bowed down to me." And they're like, "I hate you." So that's sort of the background. Okay. So then he gets sent to find his brothers, and like his dad wants to know what his brothers are, how they're doing. And so he goes, he can't find them, and he tries really hard to find them, and it turns out they're like farther away somewhere. All right, so what's he gonna do? Like he does what's right? So he goes there too. He finds his brothers, and his brothers are plotting against him because they hate his guts, right? So what they decide to do is to kill him. And then Reuben, one of the brothers, like, "No, we shouldn't do that." So like, "All right, fine, let's not do that. Let's just sell him to slavery." The other brothers are like, "All right, that sounds fair." So they end up selling him as a slave for about $200 in today's day. So that's pretty sucky. You know, however, maybe like lacking of EQ Joseph was, he didn't deserve that. They ended up lying about what they did. They took his nice coat, multicolored coat, and ripping it up and putting animal blood on it, gave it back to their dad, and said, "Oh, is this Joseph's coat?" And he's like, "Yeah, it must have been an animal that devoured him." And that's sort of what happens. So now in this part of the story, Joseph is on his way to Egypt because he just got sold as a slave. Okay, so that's sort of where we are. Everybody see the text? Okay, is it big enough? Okay, great. So here's that dream that I was talking about. You know, like, "Hey, hear this dream that I've dreamed." You know, and you all bowed down to me. And they're like, "What? Are you gonna reign over us?" So they hated him. So that's what's like. Anyway, so okay, so all that happened. He gets sold by his brothers, and then so they sold him for 20 shekels of silver, which is about $200 in today's day, and they took him to Egypt. So yeah, so that's what happens. Now, what happens after that? So what would your response have been? Okay, so to this whole situation, let's say you were Joseph and you're sort of on your way to Egypt in chains or whatever it is. What would your response have been? Okay, so I tried to think of various possible responses, and I listed them here. Okay, these are the ways that I think you respond. So to throw a pity party, like, "Poor me, God, why me?" Become a rage monster, start bars or punching people in the face or something, right? That like getting angry, having a crisis of faith, like you start to doubt God, like, "God, why are you even there?" Play the blame game. So you start to sort of try to assign blame, right? "Oh, it's this person's fault. Like, I can't believe my brothers would do this, or the circumstances, right? How come? Oh, it's this and this and this, or maybe it's even God's fault, right?" Or you can continue on in faithful submission to God and trust in Him. Okay, so I want you to think about it for yourself, and how you often react. So if you're not sure how you would react if your brothers betrayed you and sold you into slavery because you've never gone through that before, then just think about like how you usually act when something really doesn't go your way. Okay, and what that looks like. Okay, so actually I want you to throw that into the chat. Okay, so throw into the chat the phrase that I'm highlighting, if that's you. Okay, either pity party, rage monster, crisis of faith, blame game, or faithful submission? How would you react in that situation? I'll give you like 30 seconds for that.
All right. If it's too sensitive, it's too sensitive. You can also say what one of your friends that you're really close to would also feel. Okay.
That amazingly has the same name as you do.
Yeah. First and last.
See, if I had more time, I would have set up a Zoom poll for this, and then we could see how many people would have. But I think it's clearly pity party. That's like
Rage is pretty up there.
Rage
though.
is pretty up there.
Rage monster times 2 for the wings. I see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oxford has 3 pity parties.
Oh my, much pity.
Yeah, I think Lily's answer is pretty good too. It's kind of like the 5 stages of
Denial.
well, I was gonna say like sinful reactions, but
Oh.
start with the pity party, then you become angry, right? And then you have Christ of faith. Yeah, that's I think so. I think for me, there's always a rage monster inside of me, so that's kind of my reaction a lot of times. But I think the one that I actually identify with a lot, I think, is play the blame game. It's always nice to try to analyze the situation and kind of be like, well, it's this other person's fault, or it's this other thing's fault, right? That sort of thing. So how does Joseph react? Okay, so how does Joseph react? Here's what he does. So he was brought down to Egypt to be the slave of this guy named Potiphar, who's an official, an officer, captain of the guard, pretty high up dude. He bought him as a slave. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. Like, so this guy's a slave, and what does he do? Like, for him, it's very clear that the Lord was with him. And so he just kind of continues on as if nothing happens. He keeps working. He does everything that he's asked to do. He doesn't throw a pity party. He doesn't have a crisis of faith. He just goes about his business. And as he goes about his business and does everything that's asked of him, the Lord blesses that, right? And he finds success. And so he goes from like a slave, and then he rises to this position where he's the overseer of the house, like of like an officer of the Pharaoh, Potiphar, right? And so from that time on, he made him the overseer of his house. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and because of him, he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Like, that is incredible, right? So think about the kind of people that you can actually say that about, where you don't have to worry about anything. Like, you can leave them alone, don't have to worry about anything, right? Like, that's the kind of person Joseph was. It was his character. He just continues on as if nothing has happened, and he's going to be the same way no matter what. No matter what the circumstances are, it's like, well, I'm going to do the right thing. And so Potiphar felt like, well, I can just leave everything in charge for you. I can leave, and you're not going to take advantage of that situation, right? So it was his character that sort of shines through. So here's the thing: every transition, every situation presents temptation. So we see this form of temptation coming here, where Joseph could have taken advantage of his position. Okay, because now he's the overseer of the house, right? And Potiphar trusts him. So now he's put in this position where he could take advantage of that. How does that come? Well, he was handsome, and so the master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, lie with me. Temptation. But he refused. Right? He refused. And he says, behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house. Right? And we'll sort of get back to this later, but the idea is that he refused. And it's not like she only did this once. Like, she spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to her. So temptation came day after day after day after day after day after day after day, and he continued to refuse to be with her. Finally, one day, like, I guess he didn't realize that he was going to be alone with her, and so none of the men were in the house. Were in the house, and she caught him saying, "Lie with me." So again, Joseph is consistent in his character, because what does he do when he's caught in this situation of temptation? He flees. He pieces out. I'm gonna have nothing to do with this. I cannot do this. Even if I could have gotten away with it. When Potiphar's gone on like a mission or whatever it is, like, he could easily have taken advantage of his position, but he doesn't. And so he refuses and he flees. He got out of the house. And so again, what we see is sort of him kind of doing that. But so the thing that I wanted to kind of focus on right now, though, is this. Right? The master's wife. So temptation, right? Temptation. So every transition has these kind of temptations where maybe that transition means that because of the lack of structure or accountability, you can now do things that nobody will know about, right? Where you can sort of take advantage of that time to do something for yourself. In this case, it was sexual sin, and I think that's always something that can kind of be there, but I think it's a lot more expansive than that, right? So I want to think about kind of transitions for ourselves. Like, what are the different types of transitions that we are going through here in this room? So I kind of listed out a few. So here are some of the transitions I think that some of the people in this Zoom call are going through. So, this is the incoming freshman, Angelina, I guess. This is a lot of us, right? School time to summertime. That's coming soon, about 2 weeks. Just hold on, you're almost there, okay? Like, your finals are almost over. Don't worry, you'll be okay. And then it'll be a transition time all of a sudden, right, to summer. There was this transition that I talked about earlier, right, which was the normal community life where we're seeing each other all the time, right? We're encouraging each other and meeting with one another and breaking bread in each other's homes. To this, which is COVID life, by yourself most of the time, in front of your computer or, walking around or something like that. You might be going from school to work or an internship. And then, of course, for our college seniors, from undergrad to postgrad life, right? So a lot of different kinds of transitions. So what I wanted to do is I wanted you guys to think about the different temptations that come up in these transitions as it pertains to your identity as someone who follows God. So Irene is gonna chat in, or what's the URL for that? Oh, Emily's gonna chat in the URL for a mural. But pick one of the transitions. I mean, if it's something you're going through, like, great, pick that one. It doesn't have to be that one. Feel free to kind of jump around too. But I want you to just throw in a sticky note into that second column of the different temptations that one can face in that particular transition. Okay, so feel free to add as many as you want, but I'll give you about a minute and a half for that. Okay. So the tiny URL is in the chat. If that's not clickable, you can probably type it out because it's kind of short.
And again, for those who aren't familiar with Zoom, if you click hide my cursor, that can really help clear up the mural function.
cursors.
Oh yeah, and if your text is like super tiny, then yeah, feel free to just like increase the size of your memo note.
Everlasting one, nothing else compares to knowing you, living God, and my soul it longs to be with you, to be with you. Lord, your love is like a waterfall. Lord, your love is like a flowing stream. And whenever I'm feeling dry, I come to the river, I come to the river of life.
Again, so how does Joseph react? So you know, he starts out in his father's favor, then he gets like totally jacked by his brothers. And then he's like, well, you know, I mean, I'm here. Lord's with me. I'm gonna work hard. And he does. And he rises to the overseer of Potiphar's house. He gets totally unfairly, like, right? Because so what is Potiphar's wife? She says, like, she lies, and oh, this guy, like, he came into me and laughed at me, and you know, he tried to rape. Basically, she's like, he tried to rape me, right? So, you know, unfortunately, Potiphar believes his wife over Joseph, and so he's like, how dare you, and throws him in jail. So again, totally unfair. he goes to jail. Again, he can, also, one of the temptations too is to kind of spiral emotionally into one of those kind of categories that I mentioned earlier, right? Pity party or rage monster or whatever. There's always the temptation to do that. And he could have done that again here, but he doesn't. So he gets thrown into prison. How does Joseph react? It's exactly the same way. He just doesn't really think about himself all that much, or kind of go into a tantrum or anything like that. What he does is he just works hard, and then again he gets put into a position of power. So like the prison warden's like, dude, this guy is pretty cool. I'm gonna like put him in, give him some position here. So the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. Like what? Again, like his character was so impeccable. He was such a man of integrity that they didn't have to worry about him, right? Like what's the worry about putting one prisoner in charge of the other prisoners? It's like that you would use that to take advantage of for yourself, right? But like Joseph was of such impeccable character that he's like, yeah, I'll give you the keys, you put in charge of the other prisoners. And then, again, the keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, right? Because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made succeed. And it's really interesting. I don't have the text here, but in the next chapter, what happens is, two guys, the Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, they get thrown into prison because the Pharaoh gets mad at them. So they get thrown into prison, and they're in there for a little bit and whatever. And then Joseph comes around. I mean, I guess he's probably in charge of stuff, so he's like handing out food or something. I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing his rounds, and he like notices that they look sad. He's like, guys, you look sad today. What's going on, guys? And so they start telling him like, oh, we had this dream and whatever. And again, that's just an amazing thing to think about, because he's in jail unfairly. Like how many of us would still be in our pity parties at that moment? Probably for years thinking about that, right? But Joseph's like, well, I'm here. Oh, well, I'm going to work hard. The Lord's with me. I'm going to work hard. And I'm going to do whatever I need to do. And I'm not going to take advantage of this situation. I'm not going to fall into the temptation of all these other things. I'm going to just be faithful and have good character, be consistent. So what is character, right? It's consistency regardless of the circumstances, right? You're going to have the same consistency, do the same things that is the right thing to do, regardless of the circumstances and regardless of the transition times that now present these different temptations, right? So so it's interesting, this text, it starts with this here: the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph. And at that time it was like it's going well. So when things are going well, it's like, yeah, the Lord is with me. And you can pray that, and you can sing that, say amen, Jesus, like you're with me. Now, but down here, again, the Lord was with Joseph, but here he's in prison. The circumstances are terrible. And I think for most of us, our reaction would not be, well, the Lord is still with me. Our reaction would be, God, where are you? And so here I think we arrive at one of the keys to Joseph's character and his consistency. It was his sense that the Lord was always with him, no matter what, whether it's good or bad. And so this part that we skipped earlier, which I think this is a key right here. He said, like in his explanation, why he couldn't do this, he says, well, first of all, my master has no concern about anything in the house. And how could I do this, right? How could I do this? So, nor has he kept back anything from me except you, of course, because you're his wife. And so then how then can I do this great wickedness and sin against Potiphar? Actually, that's not what it says, right? How can I do this great wickedness against God? So for him, he had a sense that God was there all the time, that the Lord was with him. I can't do this thing. I can't do this thing, not because I might get caught, not because of the consequences, not because of all the other calculations that we often do when we think about should we do this or should we not do this. His calculation was, is this pleasing to God or not? And so he says, I can't do this thing because this would be wickedness and sin against God. For him, he's always thinking about that. And that's what allows him to have consistency of character. Because it doesn't matter what the temptations are. It doesn't matter whether or not he'll get caught. It doesn't matter whether or not it's advantageous for him or not advantageous for him. It doesn't matter if he's tired or not tired. It doesn't matter if he can get away with it or he can't get away with it. The truth is, God is always there. And so he's able to act with that kind of consistency, no matter what situation he finds himself in. So he doesn't kind of go down the path of like, oh God, where are you there? Where are you? He knows God is there. And so he's able to metabolize whatever difficulties come his way and just move forward. Say, well, what does God want me to do in this situation? I'll be faithful to whatever happens in front of me now. Right? And it was that quality that people saw in him, which then made them feel like, wow, we can entrust you with anything. Like we can put you in charge of anything. I don't have to worry about this at all. Right? So I think what Joseph kind of reveals is something that I find myself falling into, and I think I've heard so much, and it's kind of what I alluded to earlier, which is the blame game. I think a lot of people, they blame the circumstances. Right? It's because of this, and it's because of this, and it's because of this. And of course, circumstances have something to do with it. COVID is not a great time for a lot of reasons. And it's a circumstance that nobody engineered and is nobody's fault, really. It just is. And in some ways, you could even say it's kind of unfair because it went against maybe what you thought it would be like in a lot of ways. And I guess one thing to consider is like how much of the temptations of this time have you fallen prey to? Because there's a lot of things that could happen, and you could sort of read that, row in that thing. And I think many of us could relate with a lot of that. If before this time you were sort of regularly reading God's word, you were regularly going to Bible studies and Sunday services and regularly fellowshipping with other believers in order to, keep your heart afresh and keep your relationship with God fresh. And then now during COVID time, it's not like that. Like, why is that? And one thing that you can do is always just blame the circumstances, right? Why am I this way? Or why did I respond in this way? Well, it was because of that other person. It was because of this or because, and I think Joseph kind of blows the roof off of that. Because for him, he was the same no matter what the circumstances were, right? And he shows us like how we ought to be. So circumstances do not determine who you are. Circumstances reveal who you are, right? They don't determine who you are. They reveal who you are. And I think we often have that backwards because we spend so much time trying to fix our circumstances, right? Like we want all our circumstances to work out better. And I'm not saying we should try to sabotage our circumstances. Like you shouldn't sabotage your job interviews and walk into your job interview and be like, this job doesn't determine who I am, and like, don't do that. Okay. Do a good job on your job interviews. Okay. Like you should prepare for your internship interviews and stuff like that. Like do well on your finals. Like you should study and stuff like that. Okay. But I think we often act as if we have all of the circumstances perfect, like if we had the grades and we had the job and like all of that, that somehow our lives would be good. And I think that's not true. Because ultimately, who you are shines through. It is your character that shines through. And so instead of putting all of our effort into trying to fix our circumstances, I think we should work on our character. Work on our internal consistency. Work on our sense of sort of God consciousness that sense that God is always there. He's with me all the time. And therefore, in some sense, that's good because I trust and believe that he is for me. And in some sense, that deters you from sin, right? How could I do this? I'm not going to do this because God is there. And I think that's what we ought to grow. Because if you have that character, no matter what the circumstances are, you are fully equipped to weather through that storm. So I think the question we should ask is not, where is God? But am I with God? God is always there. God's character is not in question. Like, when has God ever lied or cheated or stolen? When has God ever done us wrong? All God has done is provide us with blessing after blessing and ultimately die on the cross for us. We're the flighty ones. We're the faithless ones, right? We're the ones who keep questioning God. And as soon as something doesn't work out, we start to kind of blame him, right? So I think that's the key. It's to look at the world, to look at God the way that Joseph saw God, right? Which is to say, like, he's always there, like that sense that God is always there. So I wanted to sort of end with this. Let's go back to that mural board, same mural board on the third column. And I want you to just write out, like, if Joseph were in this situation today, in this particular transition, how would Joseph have responded to these temptations or to this transition? What would his reaction have been, knowing sort of the consistency of his character and the understanding that God is always there, right? What would Joseph have done? So I'll give you maybe a minute and a half to do that.
Asking myself, what did I do to deserve this shit? What did I do to get your love? What did I do to get your grace? After so many times I ran away from you, why did I do it? Why did I do it? I think it was, I was scared to hear the truth. There's only one way and it's you. Can't go to anyone but you. There's only one God and it's you. Oh, I was scared to hear the truth. I had to give it all to you. I was comfortable laying in my chains. Thought I could do it myself. Thought I could make a change, but yeah, it's hard for me. Thinking all the times people went left on me. They did nothing but hurt me. And it's hard for me to keep my mind straight in the days where I got nothing but you humbling me. Yeah, ain't got a dollar to my name, but I gotta keep.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to just choose one. Choose one thing that you want to commit to. One of these responses. It could be from any of the categories, whatever. Just choose one thing that you want to commit to and throw up an icon next to it. Okay, so again, how you do that is on the left side, there's like those icons, and I think it's the star one, I think, that kind of pulls up another list of different icons and glyphs and stuff like that. And just drag it over to the one that that you would like to commit to this week, okay, for this week. And I guess overall for your transition, whatever that transition is, but yeah, at least for this week. Okay, so I'll give you like about a minute to do that. Just kind of read through that, and whatever kind of grabs you, like, oh, I really need to do this, I really want to become like Joseph in this way. Okay, choose one thing and then just throw up an icon next to it. I need to do a better job of managing my time. But we didn't talk too much about the potential transition times. But the potential of these transition times is that you can experience God. I think you can experience God in such a powerful way when you obey. When you obey, even though it hurts a little bit. For Joseph, it meant going to jail, but he still obeyed. Because when you exercise faith, that's when you experience God. You experience God when you obey. And, Hebrews chapter 11 is all about that, right? Faith and how that can please God. And I don't know, if you find that Christian life can be kind of, I don't know, plateauing, it can be kind of staid, then maybe this is a really good opportunity for you to take a step of faith and to exercise your faith and to obey, and to stay consistent and resist these temptations, even though you could use that to take advantage for yourself in one way or another. It's an opportunity to seize control of your faith and really make a decision to please God. And instead of sort of just going along with the ride. That's the nice thing about schedule and structure, right? You could sort of go along with the ride. But when those things kind of get disrupted, it is an opportunity to make your faith your own and exercise faith and experience God in a pretty powerful and neat way. And then to have a testimony afterwards of how God worked in your life. Okay, all right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much for your word, for this awesome example of Joseph, Lord, who stayed the same. His character was so incredibly consistent. And Lord, he was able to do that because he had you in his mind all the time, trusting that you were with him. He didn't waste time spiraling down emotionally, wondering all these things that are just not true, because Lord, of course you're with us. You're with us through every step of the way. You are the one who is faithful, God. We are the ones who are faithless. And Lord, I pray that we would take these transition times and make them our own, make our faith our own, and take the steps of obedience, Lord, and experience you in a powerful way. And God, I pray that through that experience, we would grow and have a testimony to be able to tell those who are coming after us. I'm going to pray also in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Okay, so I went over my time again, I think. I don't know if I've ever not gone over my time, but
We're working on it.
We're working on it. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
working
yeah, yeah. I think Greg's gonna just give us some announcements, right?
Yeah.
whoa, you've
So-
upgraded, dude.
I know
All
you-
right. Hey guys. So if you don't know me, my name is Greg. I'm one of the staff mentors here with A2F, and my wife's over there, Emily. She's on the other camera. So let me give some announcements. So with summer fast approaching, we have Vision coming up, and so if you haven't signed up, unfortunately, it is too late to sign up for session 1, but you can still sign up for session 2, which starts July 7th, and you have to register by June 5th. So we saw that a lot of you guys had a lot of commitments in order to battle those temptations. I saw in the mural board, and a lot of people were signing up for Vision. So if you haven't, that's a great thing to sign up for. There's a lot of classes, and that'll be a lot of fun. So next thing to announce is tomorrow we're celebrating the seniors graduation with an all Grace Point graduation ceremony. Woo! So if you didn't know about it, it's going to be at 4 o'clock. It's going to be a graduation ceremony from for all the seniors across all the Grace Points, followed by a reception by church. So afterward, we're going to go onto a Zoom call with our own Irvine seniors, and then some of their families will join in, and we'll hear a little bit of how God has been working in the Irvine seniors' lives the past 4 years. So please join in. If you want to join, it'll be 4 o'clock, and just go to gpseniorcelebration.org. Next, so next Friday, we're going to have a special Friday. It's actually our end of quarter or end of year Bible study. I don't know how you guys feel, but we've been away from Irvine for nearly 3 months now, and we're at the end of the quarter. So that's actually going to be another special Friday. It's not going to be at 8:30. We're going to move it up 30 minutes to 8 o'clock. So don't be late. Make sure you set that on your reminders, on your calendar, or whatnot. And it's going to be a theme called Looking Back. And the seniors are actually going to lead that time. And they're going to just explain what God has been doing in their lives up till now. So it'll be a great time to hear some of their testimonies and some of their stories. And we'll actually watch a trailer for that at the end of announcements. And then, one thing that you don't want to miss is we're doing a virtual escape room that day afterwards. So join in for that. Next is next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, we're having Senior Sunday, and we're going to celebrate the seniors' graduations then. So join us for church on GP online or gpirvine.online.church. So we'll be celebrating the graduations for the seniors and some of the 5th years. Guys like Hun, right? Yeah. All right. Now, lastly, let me play the trailer video for us.
Dear friend, I've learned a lot these past few years. I don't know if you remember, but I used to be aimless, without purpose, fearful, selfish, empty. But don't worry, I'm doing well. It's really crazy, but I finally found purpose, identity, peace and hope, real joy, and unconditional love. I'm writing this letter to let you know how I'm doing now. I can't believe how much has changed these last 4 years. my life has completely changed. Maybe you won't recognize me anymore. Okay, maybe not that much, but it has transformed. Next time we catch up, maybe I'll tell you how. Hope to see you soon. Sincerely,
Yay! That was so nice. Oh, no audio, Greg. Sorry about that. So join us next Friday for Dear Friend Looking Back, where we'll hear from the seniors. So that's it for our Bible study. If you guys got to go, it's almost 10 o'clock now. So if you got to go, we'll see you guys next week. But if you want to join in for our post activity, I personally think this is a really awesome and fun game. In order to just celebrate a few milestones, a few recent current events going on. I don't know if you heard that there's now a new armed forces called the Space Force, or if you heard that the U.S. is sending people back up to space from U.S. soil once again. In fact, this weekend. So we're going to have a post activity in a few minutes called a2f Space Force inaugural flight. So let's take a 5-minute break where we just grab snacks, take a breather, stretch, and then we'll reconvene for the post activity.